An allegory is a story in which each little feature of interest in the story is meant to correspond to something else in a completely different situation. Why? Because the story, with all its little features, is teaching a lesson that then you see in the other situation. Now, wait, this particular problem is referring to the so-called allegory of the lake. One common illustration used to demonstrate the philosophy of just-in-time inventory management shows a lake in which sharp rocks are hiding beneath the water surface. What do the rocks represent? Now, the allegory of the lake. I'm going to try to illustrate this. This is meant to be like the cross-section of a lake. I need water in my lake. Here we go. Right? Now, since this is a cross-section of a lake, in the allegory of the lake that teaches us about just-in-time inventory management and lean operation, this lake has nasty, pointy rocks at the bottom of it. That's what I'm trying to draw here. Okay, but the water level at the start of the story is quite high. So, I need to add another feature to the story. If you were out boating on this lake, perhaps you have a lovely yacht that is you in the boat, you wouldn't care overly about the fact that there are these nasty rocks at the bottom of the lake. Now, this is the standard story for teaching lean operation. An allegory, each feature means something in a different situation, such as the operation of a business. What do the rocks represent in this story? The rocks represent, in a business, uncertainties, problems. Okay, notice that what I sketched here was the beginning of the story of the allegory of the lake. Because at the beginning of the story, the allegory of the lake, notice that, oh, these are problems. This boat, what does it represent? Your yacht? That's your business. That's your system. You don't overly care about the fact that there are these uncertainties, there are these problems, these things that are going wrong in your environment because, they're way down there below the water. Okay, now, but to answer the question, that's what the rocks represent, uncertainties in the system. Now, the next question is actually following on the story of the allegory of the lake. Because see, it says one common illustration used to demonstrate the philosophy of just-in-time inventory management draws a lake in which sharp rocks are hiding beneath. That's exactly what I drew here, right? Wait a minute, but there's more questions. It's kind of, follow on from what we were talking about with the previous question. What does the water represent then? And speaking of the water in the allegory of the lake, the story, the lake should be drained. Okay, so this question is saying, why? Now, first off, first question. Just the water. What does the water represent? Inventory. Just as the rocks were problems and uncertainties, water in this picture is meant to represent inventory in your business, particularly, the different types of inventory, particularly safety stock. Okay, now, wait, why? Because in the allegory, the story, the water is protecting the boat, right? Water protecting boat corresponds to, in reality, inventory protecting against uncertainties. And you say, oh, yeah, wait a minute. Isn't that what safety stock is for? Safety stock is inventory that protects us from uncertainty. what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Because in the story of the allegory of the lake should be drained. Now wait, that corresponds to getting rid of the safety stock, right? If you're draining the lake, you're taking water out of it. So in the other situation, you're pulling inventory out of the system. Why are you supposed to do that? Well, in the allegory of the lake, the water level starts to drop. The biggest rock is going to emerge from the water soonest, right? It's going to threaten the boat. Here's the ironic part. In the allegory of the lake, this is a good thing. This is a good thing because now you in the boat, to protect your yacht, you have all the motivation in the world to get rid of that rock. Do something about it, right? Dynamite it away, and you will. And when you do that, you can keep dropping the level of the lake. Other rocks will come up. You will fight with them, right? And blast them away, and you can keep draining away the lake, and still your boat stays intact. This is the, why should the lake be drained? It demonstrates to expose, that's what you're doing when you're draining the lake, uncertainties, to confront and fix them. Because in the other situation, your business, when the safety stock level is high, it's covering up for all of these, like what are these problems, like vendors that don't deliver on time or machines that don't really quite work, so you can't always rely on them working on a particular day. Well, if you always have extra stuff around, right, it kind of covers that up. You still get by. You start taking that extra stuff away, then these features that have been hidden become more apparent to you. It is actually easy to forget you're busy. Become more apparent to you. You confront them. You solve them. You should solve them. You shouldn't have vendors that don't deliver on time. You shouldn't have a machine that you can't rely on. What's wrong with it? Stop. Fix it. The allegory is saying, take this water away, take the safety stock away, and that's going to give you the motivation to actually fix the problems in your system. And then it's going to run much better, basically all around.